Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show a game played in 1983 in the Linares Tournament between Anatoly Karpov and Gyula Sax. At the time, Anatoly Karpov was a world champion. Let's check out the game. Starts with e4, c5. We have this Sicilian, knight f3, and e6, the Paulson variation. D4, cd4, knight into d4, knight f6, knight c3 and d6. So it's transposed into the Scheveningen, and we have g4 immediately, which is the Keres attack, and h6 stopping g5. Rook g1, just putting some firepower behind the pawn. Bishop e7 and bishop e3 developing. Knight c6, queen e2, bishop d7 and h4. Knight takes and bishop takes on d4. e5. Bishop goes back to e3 and bishop c6, putting pressure on e4, and queen d3 defending. Queen a5. So both sides have not castled yet. Black actually has the choice of queenside as well as kingside castle open. So they're just biding the time and not committing. But now finally white castles queenside, and which is a common theme. And knight into e4, piece sacrifice immediately, because after knight into e4, d5, threatening d4. Now it's interesting. Karpov chose queen b3. He gave the knight back, although the engine actually recommends knight d2 today. And the point is that, if the threat of d4, for instance, is carried out, knight b3 hits the queen and you save a piece. Queen into a2 could come, but it's fine because the knight actually on knight on b3 covers the a1 square, so there won't be any check. So this is actually fine. But anyway, queen b3 was played, giving the piece back, which is still good for white. D into e4, the double pawns can be picked off later. Bishop c4, developing and threatening f7, and rook f8. Black is trying to avoid castling on the king side because of g4 and h4 already being played. So g5, passing open lines can be threatening. And here, interestingly, now g5 is the move which is favored by the engine, just going for a kingside attack, trying to create some weaknesses and get the rooks activated to some extent. H into g5 and h into g5. And suppose rook c8. This position would be fairly decent for white. White is slightly better here. Anyway, after rook f8 was played, rook d5 was played. So which is just an exchange sacrifice clearly. But it's still okay for white. After bishop takes d5 and bishop takes d5, b7 is threatened. The black king can't castle in peace, so it's stuck in the center. That's something to note. Rook d8, putting pressure on the bishop, and the bishop goes back. And bishop to b4, threatening bishop d2 check and some infiltration. So c3 blocking and a counter attack with b5. Now, white does not want to open the c file towards its own king, so a swap of bishops will not be favorable. So bishop e2, just tucking back and saving the bishop, and bishop goes back to t6. Queen d5, centralizing. Bishop into b5 was also possible. It would come with check, but this puts pressure on e4. King e7, and bishop c5. Black takes, and first we give a check on e5 and then we'll grab the bishop. So after the king moves to d7 and queen into c5. Queen c7, offering a trade of queens, which is very principled given that black is ahead in material. Queen f5 check, and here the actual correct way to play it is actually king c6, and it seems odd that you're allowing queen b5 with check, but the point is you can play king d6 and try to run away that way. If queen b4, then queen c5, and it's broadly balanced. If after king d6, let's say rook d1, then black actually equalizes very easily with king e7 now, and after queen b4, king f6, and after queen e4 you can just play g6, try to tuck the king back on the king side. That can be played. There isn't any queen d4 check here. But after queen f5 check, king e7 was played immediately, and this allows queen into e4 with check. So it gives a tempo to white. And king d7 again, queen f5 again, king e7, trying to repeat, but rook e1. Now that the e file is open, rook e1 is a very strong threat. The bishop moving threatens some nasty discoveries. Rook d6, trying to bring the rook onto the e file to block, but bishop c4, preventing rook e6. King to d8, and now bishop b5 check. a6, and bishop a4. g6, hitting the queen, and queen goes to f3, eyeing a8. And here black blundered. Something like queen c5 could be okay, it's playable, and bishop b3, white retains some advantage. There's pressure on f7, the rook is active, the white king is much safer than the black king. At the moment, there are no threats with queen a8 picking up the rook on f8 because we can show it. For instance, let's say black were to play any silly move like a5 and queen a8, and the king moves, and you try to grab the thing, then this discovery will pick up the queen, and that would be very good for black. So that is not there in the position. And after king c8, there's an excellent move for white, which leaves black with no alternatives. Perhaps you can pause the video here and try to spot what Karpov played here. Well, the move is rook e7, excellent. And the point is it deflects the black queen. It can, if it captures on e7, it no longer guards b8, and queen a8 check, king c7, queen a7 check, king c8, and queen into e7. The queen is lost, and this is definitely very, very good for white. So after rook e7, first rook d1 check was played, creating the d6 square for the king to come later. And after king into d1, queen into e7 was played. Queen a8 check, king c7, and queen a7. Well, going to d6 is actually not prolonging the game, but it's checkmate to follow very soon anyway. The bishop is, light squared bishop is very well placed in cutting off key light squares for the black king. And after king d6 was played, queen b6 came anyway, and it's going to lead to checkmate in a couple of moves. So at this point, black resigned, and a very wonderful victory for Anatoly Karpov. Well, that's the game. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you soon for the next game.